Welcome to Awakening the Inner Self, Mastering Emotional Triggers and Energy Centers, authored by Mindful Literary. This audiobook is designed to guide you on a transformative journey, enhancing your self-awareness and emotional intelligence while exploring the profound connection between your emotions and energy centers. In this comprehensive guide, you'll delve into the heart of emotional triggers, uncovering the root causes that shape your responses. We'll begin by recognizing your personal triggers and practicing mindfulness to manage them effectively. As you progress, you'll learn about the power of energy centers, also known as chakras, and discover techniques to balance and align them for optimal well-being. Our journey continues with healing from past traumas. You'll identify and release emotional burdens, embracing self-compassion as a pathway to healing. Cultivating emotional intelligence is key, and you'll develop self-awareness, empathy, and effective communication skills to enrich your relationships and personal growth. Nurturing self-love and acceptance is essential, and this audiobook offers practices to embrace your imperfections, engage in self-care rituals, and reinforce self-love through affirmations. Harnessing emotional resilience will empower you to adapt to change, overcome adversity, and build mental toughness. The mind-body connection is integral to your well-being. You'll explore how emotions impact physical health and integrate yoga, meditation, and nutritional support for emotional balance. Mindfulness practices such as meditation and mindful breathing will help you cultivate gratitude and presence in your daily life. Connecting with your inner child is a profound aspect of this journey. You'll heal inner child wounds, rediscover joy, and practice reparenting to nurture your inner child. Embracing vulnerability and authenticity, living in alignment with your truth, and transforming negative thought patterns will empower you to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. Balancing masculine and feminine energies, expressing emotions creatively, and mastering self-regulation techniques are essential skills you'll develop. You'll learn to harmonize yin and yang energies, set boundaries for emotional well-being, and cultivate emotional stability. By the end of this audiobook, you'll have a deep understanding of your emotional landscape, the ability to manage and harness your energy centers, and the tools to live a purposeful and meaningful life. Let's embark on this enlightening journey together and awaken the inner self that resides within you. Chapter 1: Understanding Emotional Triggers. Recognizing your personal triggers. There's an undeniable power in pinpointing the moments that make our emotions flare up. I remember instances where I'd get overwhelmingly angry during seemingly trivial disagreements or feel an unexpected wave of sadness watching a particular scene in a movie. These intense emotional responses weren't just reactions, they were clues, pointing towards something deeper. For men and women alike, recognizing these moments is crucial. It starts with paying attention. Maybe it's the frustration boiling over during an argument with your partner where you feel unheard, or the irritation when you're stuck in traffic, feeling every moment wasted. By acknowledging these reactions and linking them back to their triggers, we can begin understanding the root causes. It's not just about the traffic or the argument. It's about feeling out of control, unheard, or disrespected. Each of these moments offers a window into our emotional landscape, providing us with invaluable insights into our deeper fears, desires, and needs. Daily stressors have an insidious way of chipping away at our emotional resilience. I used to think that my regular morning rush, the never-ending emails, and the endless cycle of responsibilities were just par for the course. But stress isn't just about the severity of the challenge, it's about how often we're exposed to it and how we perceive it. What I learned is that these daily stressors, although they might appear mundane, accumulate and weigh heavily on our emotional state. Men and women tend to navigate these routine pressures differently, but the impact is the same. Maybe it's about societal expectations, balancing work and home life, or simply the pressure we put on ourselves to be perfect. Understanding that these stressors can amplify our emotional responses helps in mitigating their impact. It's about finding small pockets of peace amidst the chaos, whether it's taking 5 minutes to breathe deeply, engaging in a hobby, or simply acknowledging that it's okay not to be okay all the time. One of the most profound realizations for me was identifying my personal triggers. It wasn't just about knowing what made me react, but understanding why. Take, for instance, the anxiety I feel before a big presentation. At first, it seemed normal, but diving deeper, I realized it was rooted in a fear of judgment and a need for approval. Similarly, recognizing triggers like certain criticisms or specific memory cues helped me understand the underlying issues related to self-worth and past traumas. For both men and women, these triggers can vary widely, from work-related stresses, relationship dynamics, to even broader societal pressures. Recognizing them involves being brutally honest with oneself, reflecting on past experiences, and sometimes seeking external help like therapy. This self-awareness is the first step towards managing our reactions and fostering a healthier emotional environment. Instead of feeling helpless against an emotional storm, you start seeing patterns and gain the power to respond, not just react. So, next time you feel a strong emotional surge, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, what's truly driving this reaction? Exploring the root causes of triggers. When I find myself reacting strongly to something seemingly trivial, I often pause and trace these reactions back through my personal history. It's fascinating how certain triggers can be traced back to past experiences that have left an indelible mark on my psyche. For example, when I hear a specific tone of voice or encounter a particular situation, my body and mind respond in ways that feel out of proportion to the event at hand. It's like a splinter in my consciousness, reminding me of unresolved moments from my past that, surprisingly, still exert influence over me. Connecting my emotional responses with unresolved issues has been like peeling an onion. Each layer I peel back reveals something deeper. I remember feeling an intense wave of anger whenever someone criticized me, even if it was constructive. It took me years to realize that this intense emotional response was rooted in childhood experiences, where criticism was neither supportive nor constructive, but rather harsh and demeaning. This understanding didn't just appear overnight. It took a lot of self-reflection and sometimes uncomfortable honesty with myself to see the connection. Acknowledging these unresolved issues has been painful yet liberating. It allowed me to approach criticism in a new light and manage my emotional responses more effectively. Practicing mindfulness to manage triggers. When I first started trying to deal with my triggers, it felt like an uphill battle. I often found myself swept away by strong emotions whenever something unexpected happened. But then I discovered mindfulness. By using mindfulness to observe my emotional reactions, I slowly started to notice patterns. For instance, whenever I felt criticized, I'd get defensive and angry almost immediately. By paying attention, I could see the emotional chain reaction occurring in real time. It wasn't about stopping the emotions right away. It was about acknowledging their presence without judgment. This was the first step toward understanding what triggered me and why. It's like shining a light in a dark room. Suddenly you can see where everything is, your fears, your anger, and your disappointments. Developing techniques to stay present during these triggering moments was the real game changer. One strategy that helped me a lot is called grounding. When those intense feelings start bubbling up, I focus on my breath or the sensation of my feet against the floor. This brings me back to the present moment instead of allowing my thoughts to spiral out of control. Another technique is to tune into my surroundings, like noticing the color of the walls or the texture of my chair. These small actions act as anchors, steadying me when emotions threaten to sweep me away. It's not about ignoring my feelings, but rather about giving myself a moment to respond rather than react impulsively. Tuning into the physical sensations within your body also works wonders. When anxiety, anger, or sadness kick in, notice where you feel it. Is it a tightness in your chest? A knot in your stomach? By locating the physical manifestations of emotions, you create a space between the feeling and the reaction. This simple act can diffuse some of the immediate intensity, giving you critical seconds to think and process. Over time, this practice of observing and grounding can transform how you handle triggers, making you more resilient and self-aware. Chapter 2: The Power of Energy Centers. Introduction to Energy Centers. Understanding the concept of energy centers within the body often feels like uncovering a hidden map of ourselves. These energy centers are more than just abstract ideas. They are dynamic points of energy that influence our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Think of them as power stations within us that need maintenance and care. Each one of us has numerous energy centers, often called chakras, which are involved in various bodily functions and mental processes. They align with key physiological points such as nerve clusters and major organs. The idea is not new. It has roots in ancient spiritual traditions. Exploring these energy centers helps to understand how interconnected our bodies and souls are. Each energy center has its own unique significance and purpose. The root chakra, for example, is located at the base of the spine and is considered the foundation of our energy system. It influences our feelings of safety and grounding. When balanced, it makes us feel secure and capable of facing life's challenges. On the other hand, an imbalanced root chakra can lead to feelings of fear and instability. Moving upwards, the sacral chakra situated in the lower abdomen governs our creativity and passion. It is where emotions, sexual energy, and creative impulses are generated. A well-balanced sacral chakra can spark enthusiasm and pleasure in activities, while an imbalance might manifest as emotional turbulence or creative blocks. These energy centers continue up the body, each with distinct roles, creating a fascinating tapestry of influence. A fascinating aspect is realizing how these energy centers interact with one another. They are not isolated systems. Instead, they communicate and affect each other constantly. For example, the interaction between the heart center and the throat center plays a crucial role in how we express love and truth. A blocked heart center might hinder our ability to communicate emotions effectively, even if the throat center is generally in good condition. The intricate balance among these centers dictates how smoothly our life flows, influencing everything from our physical health to emotional resilience. Understanding and tending to these energy centers can bring awareness and harmony into our lives. Balancing your energy centers. When it comes to recognizing signs of imbalanced energy centers, I've found that it's a deeply personal journey. For example, what happens to you when you're feeling off? There's this heaviness, almost like I'm dragging myself through mud. Sometimes it's anxiety that elevates to the point where my chest feels like it's in a vice grip. Other times it's the subtle lethargy that just won't shake off, no matter how much I rest. These experiences aren't unique to me, and they should serve as signals that something in our energy alignment is askew. Men often experience imbalances in ways that affect their assertiveness or clarity of thought, while women might notice it in their emotional vulnerability or creativity. So, by paying attention to both physical sensations and emotional states, you're already halfway to understanding your energy blueprint. Practicing techniques to restore balance and harmony takes commitment, but is undeniably rewarding. Personally, I've delved into a variety of methodologies, from physical movement like yoga and tai chi to more meditative practices like mindfulness and guided visualization. When I've felt particularly anxious or unbalanced, focusing on my breath has been transformative. Imagine inhaling deeply through your nose, counting to 4, holding for 4, and exhaling slowly through your mouth, almost like you're blowing out a candle. Visualize a stream of light aligning each of your energy centers: the root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown. It might seem overly simple, but these visuals connect me deeply with each part of my being. Men might find weightlifting or martial arts effective in grounding their energy, while women could resonate more with dance or creative physical expressions. Variety and consistency are key, allowing us to adapt techniques that feed our unique energetic needs. Everyday practices can also integrate the balancing of our energy centers seamlessly into our lives. Drinking water, for example, is not just about hydration, it's about purifying the body's internal energy flow. When I take a sip, I often imagine it cleansing any leftover negative vibrations. Incorporating crystals like amethyst or clear quartz can also amplify these intentions, but it's all about what resonates with you. Nutrition plays a role too. Certain foods align with particular chakras. Eating root vegetables like sweet potatoes can ground and stabilize your root chakra, while antioxidant-rich berries might enliven your third eye chakra. Pay attention to what your body craves and how it responds, because our physical well-being is deeply intertwined with our energetic states. Using chakra meditation for energy alignment. Have you ever felt like your body was out of sync, like something wasn't flowing the way it should? That's where chakra-focused meditation can really make a difference. Guided practices for this kind of meditation can help you tap into these energy centers and align them properly. Imagine sitting in a quiet room, the air is still, and you begin by taking a few slow, deep breaths. You close your eyes and focus on the base of your spine, envisioning a vibrant red light glowing there. This is your root chakra, the foundation of your energy. With each breath, you feel more grounded and secure. Moving upward, you shift your attention to your sacral chakra, located just below your navel. Picture this area bathed in a warm orange hue. You're encouraged to let feelings of creativity and joy emanate from this center. Continuing, you proceed to the solar plexus chakra, just above your stomach, visualizing a bright yellow light. This is your powerhouse, the source of your inner strength and confidence. As the guided practice continues, each chakra is acknowledged and energized, creating a beautifully complex but harmonious tapestry of colors and feelings coursing through your body. It's not just about recognizing these chakras, but aligning your energy centers through focused visualization exercises. The heart chakra, glowing green in your chest, fills you with love and compassion, while the throat chakra, shining blue, helps you express your truth clearly. The third eye chakra, with its deep indigo color, sharpens your intuition and insight. Finally, your crown chakra, radiating violet at the top of your head, connects you to higher consciousness and universal energy. Each center works together, transforming fragmented energy into a coherent, revitalized flow. Visualizing each chakra vividly while using affirmations can heighten this experience. For instance, you might silently affirm, "I am grounded and secure," for the root chakra, and "I trust my intuition," for the third eye chakra. By engaging both your mind and body, you create a more potent alignment of energies. Whenever life feels chaotic or overwhelming, take a moment to revisit these practices. Picture each chakra, breathe deeply, and remind yourself of the balance and harmony you're capable of achieving. It's a simple but powerful tool to bring focus and serenity to your daily life. Chapter 3: Healing from Past Traumas. Identifying and acknowledging past traumas. Reflecting on my past experiences, I often find myself grappling with the impact of traumatic events that have shaped my life. It was never easy to face these dark corners of my memory, but each look back offered a glimpse of how resilient and strong I have become through the storm. Sometimes, it's like standing in front of a mirror that shows all the scars and bruises. These reflections make it clear how those moments of pain, fear, and confusion have molded my present. Each scar marks a pivotal moment where I could have been broken, yet survived, carrying forward the lessons learned. It was surprising to realize how much of my current behavior is dictated by those past traumas. Certain triggers and reactions seem almost automatic, like flinching at loud noises or feeling an inexplicable anxiety in crowded places. Acknowledging this link wasn't simple. It was a challenging process of self-awareness, where each recognition was like peeling back another layer of my soul. I often asked myself questions like, why do I react this way? And where did this fear come from? Slowly, answers emerged, painting a vivid picture of cause and effect. One of the toughest parts was accepting that these pieces of my past are a part of me. They're not just relics, but ongoing influences that shadow my actions and thoughts. There were days I fought hard to bury these memories, hoping they would just disappear. But the more I suppressed them, the more they haunted my dreams and everyday life. It was only when I started acknowledging their presence that I found some semblance of control. It felt like reclaiming a part of myself long hidden, starting the journey toward healing and understanding. Releasing emotional burdens. Grasping onto heavy emotions feels like carrying an invisible weight, doesn't it? It's as if every step I take is a little harder, every breath a bit heavier. When I first decided to process these emotions, it wasn't some grand epiphany. It was more like a quiet realization that I was tired. So very tired. One of the first techniques I embraced was journaling. I started writing my thoughts, my fears, and my frustrations, no matter how messy or disjointed. There was something incredibly freeing in seeing my emotions laid out on paper. It was like removing bricks from a backpack I had carried for too long. Then there's the power of physical movement. For me, boxing became an outlet. It wasn't just about getting fit, it was about channeling and expelling pent-up anger. Every punch I threw felt like releasing a chunk of my inner turmoil. On days when boxing felt too intense, I turned to brisk walks in nature. There's a restorative power in just being outside, feeling the wind on my face and hearing the rustle of leaves. It's as if nature itself whispered that it was okay to let go. Learning to let go of emotional attachments from the past is an ongoing journey for me. Memories have a way of sticking around, sometimes as uninvited guests that never leave. I found that embracing mindfulness helped. Simple practices like focusing on my breath, acknowledging what I'm feeling without judgment, and gently steering my mind back to the present helped reduce my mental clutter. It wasn't about forgetting the past, but rather reinterpreting it in a way that didn't control my present. Sometimes, focusing on the now allowed me to see past events with new, softer eyes. Talking about it with someone I trust also made a difference. There's something profoundly healing about hearing someone say, "I understand." Whether it was a therapist or a close friend, sharing my story helped me rewrite it. It's like turning rough, sharp glass into smooth, harmless sea glass. Their perspectives provided new angles to my own story, helping me find closure and acceptance. One practical tip that really stuck with me is embracing a daily mantra. Whenever I felt old attachments resurfacing, I'd close my eyes and repeat something kind to myself like, "I release what no longer serves me." It sounds simple, maybe even a bit cliché, but it worked. Over time, this practice rewired my thought patterns and started forming new, healthier pathways in my mind. It's as if I was giving myself permission to live lighter, freer. Embracing self-compassion for healing. Throughout life, we often find ourselves caught in the whirlwind of expectations, responsibilities, and daily challenges. There was a time in my life when I felt utterly drained, constantly battling feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. I thought pushing myself harder, criticizing my mistakes, and setting ever higher standards would eventually bring success and happiness. But instead, it led to an emotional burnout. It was in these moments of vulnerability that I realized the importance of cultivating a nurturing attitude towards myself. Embracing self-compassion didn't mean lowering my standards or becoming complacent. It was about treating myself with the same kindness and understanding I would offer to a dear friend. I started by giving myself permission to feel and acknowledge pain without judgment. Whenever I made mistakes or faced setbacks, instead of chastising myself, I allowed room for error, recognizing it as a part of being human. It was a gradual process, learning to offer words of comfort and encouragement to myself. I found solace in small acts of self-care, a warm bath, a quiet walk in nature, or even a few moments of mindful breathing. These moments of gentleness helped to rebuild my emotional resilience. Using self-compassion as a tool for emotional recovery significantly altered my inner narrative. Previously, I would spiral into negative thoughts, replaying scenarios where I believed I had failed. Instead of succumbing to these destructive patterns, I began to actively practice self-compassion techniques. One powerful method was to pause and reflect on my inner critic's voice, then consciously replace it with a compassionate response. When I felt overwhelmed by a challenging situation, I would remind myself that it was okay to take a break and seek support. This shift didn't come overnight, but with consistent practice, it transformed my approach to my well-being. There was a specific evening etched in my memory, after a particularly tough day at work, when I decided to change my routine. Instead of diving into more work or retreating into self-criticism, I took time to journal my feelings. I wrote as if I were comforting a friend, each sentence laced with empathy and understanding. As words flowed, so did a newfound sense of peace. By externalizing my thoughts in a compassionate manner, I was able to process my emotions more constructively. Incorporating self-compassion into daily life isn't about grand gestures. It lies in the subtle changes and daily practices that remind us of our inherent worth. If you find yourself struggling, try speaking to yourself with kindness and patience. Notice how your body responds to stress and offer it the care it needs. Remember, the path to recovery isn't linear. There will be ups and downs. But with a nurturing attitude, you'll find the strength to heal and grow. Consider making a commitment to at least one small act of self-compassion each day and observe the impact it has on your overall well-being. Chapter 4: Cultivating Emotional Intelligence. Developing Self-Awareness. Developing self-awareness begins with understanding your own emotions and their origins. I found that paying attention to my emotional responses offered invaluable insights. For example, during a stressful project at work, I often felt overwhelmed and frustrated, emotions that seemed to come from nowhere. But when I took a closer look, I realized these feelings were rooted in my fear of failure and desire for perfection. This understanding didn't come overnight. It took many moments of honest reflection and sometimes uncomfortable introspection. One day, after yet another outburst of frustration, I sat down and traced back my emotions to their source. I noticed a pattern: the fear of letting my team down. Recognizing this was an eye-opener. It allowed me to address the real issue, rather than just trying to suppress the symptom. The impact of your emotions on your behavior can be subtle yet profound. I've noticed how a simple emotion like anxiety can influence my actions throughout the day. For instance, feeling anxious about an upcoming meeting often led me to double-check my reports, not because they were incorrect, but because my emotion was steering my behavior towards unnecessary perfectionism. This heightened state of alertness would sometimes spill over into my interactions with colleagues, making me seem distant or curt. By recognizing this, I could consciously choose to take a step back, breathe, and approach the task more calmly. It's fascinating how the realization of emotions as underlying drivers can transform your daily behavior. You start seeing the connections between what you feel and what you do, which is the first step toward making intentional changes. Several practical strategies helped me develop this self-awareness. One of the effective techniques was keeping an emotion journal. Every evening, I'd jot down the emotions I experienced throughout the day and try to pinpoint their origins. It was illuminating to see patterns emerge over time. Another method was mindfulness meditation, which taught me to observe my thoughts and feelings without judgment. This practice made it easier to identify my emotions as they arose, rather than in retrospect. Being mindful of my breathing and bodily sensations also served as an anchor, helping me stay present and less reactive. Eventually, these techniques helped me build a stronger connection with my emotional landscape, making it easier to navigate life's ups and downs with more composure and clarity. Empathy and compassion towards others. Practicing empathy to connect with others' emotions has transformed my interactions with people around me. I've found that empathy isn't just about understanding someone's situation, but actually feeling with them. It's like when a friend confesses a deep, personal struggle. Instead of jumping to solutions, I've started to sit with their pain, showing them that their feelings are valid. This shift from trying to fix problems to genuinely connecting has made my relationships deeper. In these moments, it's less about talking and more about truly listening. Feeling someone's emotions as if they're my own has brought a new dimension to my connections. Expressing compassion in my relationships has been another revelation. Compassion goes beyond empathy. It's taking that feeling and transforming it into action. When my partner is stressed, I don't just acknowledge their stress, but try to alleviate it, whether through small acts like making their favorite meal or bigger gestures like organizing some free time for them to relax. Compassion bridges the gap from understanding to actively caring. I've noticed that my relationships flourish when I show consistent, compassionate actions because it demonstrates that I'm willing to invest time and energy into their well-being. The key has been expressing this regularly, not just in grand gestures, but through everyday actions, which reinforces a foundation of trust and love. Effective communication skills. One of the most transformative skills I've learned is how to express my emotions clearly and honestly. It wasn't always easy. There were times I would bottle up my feelings, afraid it might make me seem weak or overly emotional. But through trial and error, I realized that effective communication starts with being true to myself. When I began to articulate my emotions, whether it was feeling disappointed, happy, or stressed, I found that people responded positively. It fostered deeper connections and mutual respect. I learned to use I statements, such as I feel, instead of placing blame with you make me feel. This shift made my conversations more about sharing my feelings rather than accusing the other person, leading to more constructive dialogues. Practicing active listening was another game changer for me. Initially, I thought being a good listener meant simply hearing the words someone said. But active listening is so much more. It's about being fully present and engaged, showing the speaker that their words are valued. I began to practice this by maintaining eye contact, nodding in understanding, and paraphrasing what was said to ensure I grasped their point of view. This approach not only improved my relationships, but also gave me better insights into others' thoughts and feelings. I found myself becoming more empathetic and perceptive, capable of addressing concerns that might not have been explicitly stated. Clear and honest expression of emotions combined with active listening crafts a powerful duo in communication. This practice doesn't just enhance personal relationships, but also fosters respect and understanding in professional settings. When we actively engage and clearly express how we feel, we open the door to more authentic, meaningful interactions. Next time you find yourself in a conversation, try to articulate your emotions honestly and pay keen attention to what the other person is saying. You'll likely find that this makes for more enriching and effective communication. Chapter 5: Nurturing Self-Love and Acceptance. Embracing your imperfections. I remember feeling the weight of my own flaws dragging me down. I was constantly striving for perfection, believing anything less was a failure. In retrospect, it was exhausting and unfulfilling. Every small mistake felt magnified, echoing loudly in my mind. But then, a pivotal realization struck me: to be human is to be imperfect. The acceptance of this truth opened a new chapter in my life. I began to see my flaws as integral parts of myself, not as detrimental handicaps, but as characteristics that contribute to my individuality. This shift in perspective allowed me to breathe easier and live more authentically. By embracing my imperfections, I found freedom from the incessant push for an unattainable ideal. This doesn't mean I stopped striving for self-improvement. Instead, it brought a sense of compassion toward my own journey. As I started appreciating my unique quirks, I discovered an undeniable beauty in them. The very traits I once viewed with disdain became symbols of my strength. Every scar and every mistake told a story of resilience and growth. My freckles, which I used to try to hide, became charming elements of my personality. My tendency to be overly analytical, which once felt crippling, began to serve as a powerful tool for problem solving. Recognizing the beauty in these unique aspects required a conscious effort to shift my mindset, but it was worth every moment. The strength in one's uniqueness cannot be overstressed. It's what sets us apart and allows us to contribute diverse perspectives in every environment we find ourselves. Harnessing this strength starts with acknowledging and celebrating the very traits that make us different. So instead of aspiring to fit into a predefined mold, let's break it. Let's redefine what it means to be successful on our own terms, incorporating all aspects of who we are, flaws included. In this journey, maintaining a sense of humor about our imperfections can be incredibly liberating. Laughing at ourselves doesn't mean we're not taking our growth seriously. It just means we are not burdening ourselves with unrealistic expectations. It's about making peace with our humanity while continuing to push our boundaries. Realizing that everyone, regardless of how perfect they appear on the outside, carries their own set of insecurities can be a comforting reminder of our shared human experience. The next time you catch yourself fixating on a flaw, take a step back. Reflect on how this imperfection has shaped you and what strengths it has brought to your life. You might find that in your perceived weakness lies a hidden asset that can be incredibly powerful when embraced. The journey to self-acceptance is ongoing, but each step toward embracing your imperfections is a step toward a fuller, more authentic life. Practicing self-care rituals. I never really understood the importance of daily routines until I started feeling perpetually drained. It was then I realized my haphazard lifestyle was taking a toll on both my body and my mind. Creating a routine seemed like a chore at first, but I decided to give it a shot. Mornings began with a simple meditation session, just 10 minutes of focusing on my breath. It felt awkward initially, but over time, it became the anchor of my day. After meditating, I'd lace up my shoes for a brisk walk. Moving my body first thing in the morning not only woke me up, but also lifted my mood. Next, a wholesome breakfast filled with protein and greens gave me sustained energy. Making small changes, like switching from my usual cup of coffee to a nutrient-rich smoothie, made a big difference. My mind felt sharper and my body more resilient. As the day progressed, I made it a point to sprinkle in activities that brought me joy. Whether it was playing my favorite tunes while working or taking a break to read a couple of chapters from a riveting book, these moments recharged me. The highlight of my evenings was unwinding with a creative hobby. I discovered a newfound passion for painting, even though I had no formal training. Throwing colors onto a canvas without overthinking was liberating. It became a form of therapy, a way to express my feelings without words. Ending the day was about more than just shutting down my devices. It was about consciously detaching from the world's hustle and bustle. I drew myself a warm bath with aromatic oils, and the unwind session felt like a gentle embrace, preparing my mind for restful sleep. One practical tip I picked up was the idea of microbreaks throughout the day. It's incredible how a quick 5-minute break after 25 minutes of focused work can rejuvenate you. I'd stand up, stretch, or just lay back and close my eyes for a moment. These tiny pauses were islands of tranquility in a sea of tasks. By integrating these routines, I noticed a profound shift. My energy levels stabilized, my focus sharpened, and my overall well-being improved. It's fascinating how such small, deliberate actions can create a ripple effect, transforming the quality of life one day at a time. Affirmations for self-love. Using positive affirmations to reinforce self-worth has been a life-changing practice for me. I remember vividly the first time I stood in front of the mirror, telling myself that I am valued and worthy of love. Initially, it felt awkward, and I doubted every word. But over time, these words began to sink in and rewire my thinking. Every morning, I would repeat phrases like I am enough just as I am, and I deserve happiness and success. Slowly but surely, these affirmations chipped away at my insecurities and self-doubt, building a stronger foundation of self-worth. The key was consistency and believing in the power of my words. To make affirmations impactful in my daily life, I found it essential to incorporate them into my routine. I started by writing them down in a journal every morning. This practice gave me a sense of purpose and a positive start to my day. I also placed sticky notes with affirmations around my home, on the bathroom mirror, the fridge, and even my car dashboard. This constant visual reminder reinforced the affirmations throughout my day. Additionally, I began practicing mindfulness and meditation, integrating my affirmations into these quiet moments. By doing so, I created a mental space that nurtured my self-worth, making these positive statements a lasting part of my mindset. One practical tip that has been immensely helpful is tailoring the affirmations to resonate with personal experiences and emotional needs. Instead of using generic affirmations, I crafted statements that addressed specific areas where I struggled most. For example, I forgive myself for past mistakes helped me move past regrets, while I trust in my abilities to achieve my goals bolstered my confidence in professional settings. This personalized approach made the affirmations more relatable and effective. Through consistent practice and heartfelt belief, affirmations have become a powerful tool for nurturing self-love and building a resilient sense of self-worth. Chapter 6: Harnessing Emotional Resilience. Strengthening your mental toughness. Building a resilient mindset starts with cultivating daily habits that reinforce your mental and emotional strength. Every morning, I make it a point to meditate for 10 minutes. It may sound simple, but this practice clears my mind and sets a calm, focused tone for the rest of the day. Meditation helps me detach from my worries, and when I face challenges, I'm less likely to get overwhelmed. Another daily habit I've adopted is writing down 3 things I'm grateful for. This simple act shifts my focus from what's going wrong to what's going right, fostering a more resilient outlook. Gratitude keeps me grounded and reminds me that no matter how tough things get, there are always positive aspects in life. Staying strong in the face of adversity isn't something that happens overnight. It's a skill, much like any other, that requires practice and dedication. I remember a particularly challenging period when I lost my job. Initially, my confidence took a hit, and I felt paralyzed by fear of the future. However, instead of succumbing to stress, I focused on what I could control. I updated my resume, dedicated hours each day to job searching, and took online courses to acquire new skills. This proactive approach not only kept me busy but also empowered me. Facing adversity, I learned that the key to staying strong is to keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. Every challenge became an opportunity to grow and redefine what resilience meant to me. Adapting to change and challenges. When it comes to developing flexibility in your responses to change, it's important to understand that change is an inevitable part of life. Through my own experiences, I've learned that the key isn't to fear or resist change, but to embrace it as an opportunity for growth. One approach that has consistently worked for me is adopting a mindset of curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" I reframe the question to, "What can I learn from this?" This shift in perspective turns anxiety into excitement and challenges into opportunities for development. By actively seeking to understand and adapt to new circumstances, whether it's a change in career, relationships, or personal goals, I have found myself becoming more resilient and resourceful. The ability to pivot when things don't go as planned has not only helped me overcome obstacles, but has also opened doors to new possibilities that I hadn't considered before. Using challenges as opportunities for growth is another area where I've found significant personal development. Challenges push us beyond our comfort zones, and while this can be uncomfortable, it's also where real growth happens. Every time I faced a difficult situation, I asked myself how it could serve me in the long run. For instance, when I encountered a setback at work, instead of dwelling on the negative, I analyzed what went wrong and what I could do differently next time. This proactive approach not only helped me improve my skills, but also prepared me better for future challenges. Over time, I realized that each challenge was essentially a disguised opportunity for me to learn, adapt, and strengthen my abilities. By maintaining a growth mindset, I viewed failures not as the end of the road, but as stepping stones that guided me closer to my goals. One practical tip I've found invaluable is keeping a journal. Documenting my thoughts, feelings, and experiences in response to change and challenges has provided me with insights that I might have otherwise overlooked. It allows me to track my progress, recognize patterns in my behavior, and make conscious adjustments. By reflecting on past experiences, I can better prepare for future changes, equipping myself with the knowledge and confidence needed to navigate anything that comes my way. Overcoming adversity with resilience strategies. When I hit rock bottom, the ground felt like it had swallowed me whole. My mind was a battlefield of negative thoughts and self-doubt. But in those moments, I discovered that specific strategies helped me bounce back from what seemed like insurmountable setbacks. The first thing I realized was that setbacks signify a point of reflection, not a permanent downfall. Instead of letting failures define me, I started to dissect the situations to understand what went wrong and what I could do differently. Reflection allowed me to turn failures into learning opportunities. Another strategy that worked wonders was setting small, achievable goals. When I was overwhelmed by a big failure, breaking it down into manageable pieces helped me regain a sense of control. Small wins built my confidence gradually. I also began practicing mindfulness to stay in the present moment, preventing my mind from fixating on past failures or future anxieties. Mindfulness allowed me to focus on actionable steps I could take right now to improve my situation. Finding my inner strength was not an overnight process. It was more like chiseling away at a block of marble to reveal the sculpture inside. During challenging times, I paid attention to positive affirmations and encouraging self-talk. Reminding myself of past successes and resilience helped me build a stronger mental foundation. Seeking support from close friends and family provided me with external perspectives and emotional backup, making the burden lighter to carry. There were days when my inner strength felt invisible, but it was then that I relied on a sense of purpose. Reconnecting with what truly mattered to me, whether it was my passion for writing or my dedication to helping others, fueled my resilience. Purpose gave me a lifeline, a reason to keep pushing forward, even when circumstances were tough. I also found strength in small acts of self-care, which gradually built a reservoir of inner resilience. One practical tip that changed the game for me was keeping a resilience journal. I jotted down every setback and how I responded to it, as well as every small victory. Over time, this journal became a testament to my growth, a tangible record of my journey through adversity. It was a way to see my progress laid out clearly, reminding me that every step, however small, was a move toward overcoming. The act of writing itself was therapeutic, providing clarity and a sense of accomplishment. Chapter 7: Mind-Body Connection for Well-Being. Understanding the connection between emotions and physical health. During a particularly challenging phase in life, I remember how my evenings were wrecked with a persistent headache. It wasn't until a friend pointed out that my stress levels might be affecting my physical condition that I began to consider how deeply emotions could impact the body. Many of us are aware of the basic mind-body connection, but it's striking how overlooked this powerful link can be in our everyday lives. When we talk about emotions, we instinctively think of intangible feelings: happiness, sadness, anger. However, these emotions very actively influence our physical state. Stress is particularly notorious for its impacts on physical health. From my own experience, I've seen how stress can manifest physically in various ways. For men, stress often leads to problems like muscle tension and headaches. It's not just an annoyance, it's your body's way of telling you something isn't right. For women, signs like digestive issues or changes in menstrual cycles can be significant indicators of emotional strain. The heart races, the muscles tighten, the breath quickens. Emotions are not just all in the mind, they're very much felt in the body. Recognizing the signs of emotional stress is paramount. If you've ever noticed an unusual tightness in your chest or an unsettling feeling in your stomach before delivering a presentation, you're experiencing the physical expressions of anxiety. These signs can be more prolonged and varied over time. Chronic back pain, unexplained aches, and even frequent colds can sometimes be your body warning you about unchecked emotional stress. By tuning into these signals, you can start addressing the root causes even before they escalate to more severe health conditions. One practical tip that has worked for me involves deep breathing exercises. It's astounding how controlled breathing can alleviate immediate physical symptoms of stress, like a racing heart or muscle tension. Consider trying mindfulness or meditation practices to bring awareness to your emotional state and its physical manifestations. This isn't just about feeling better in the moment, but about maintaining a healthier mind-body connection in the long run. Integrating yoga and meditation into daily routine. Incorporating yoga practices to support emotional balance can be transformative. I remember how I felt when I first started, stressed and overwhelmed. Waking up to a chaotic mind and a heavy heart was my norm. Then, I discovered yoga. My introduction was humble and simple, just a few minutes of breathing and stretching postures in my living room. I quickly noticed how even these small practices shifted my emotional balance. My anxiety began to ease and my mood improved. The beauty of yoga lies in its adaptability. You don't need to be an expert or flexible. It's about connecting with your body and breath and, in turn, aligning with your emotions. As someone who has continued this practice, I can attest to the profound difference it has made in my daily life. I find myself more grounded and resilient, able to approach challenges with a calm mind and open heart. Using meditation to achieve mental and emotional clarity might sound daunting at first, but it's entirely doable. I remember sitting for my first meditation session and feeling a whirlwind of thoughts swirling in my mind. Initially, I struggled with staying still and keeping my mind from wandering. Gradually, I learned that meditation isn't about emptying the mind, but rather observing my thoughts without judgment. This simple shift in perspective was enlightening. With each session, I found clarity emerging from the chaos. My emotions, once muddled and overwhelming, started to untangle themselves. It's been a journey, going from just 5 minutes of meditation a day to a more sustained, reflective practice. This consistency has helped me see through emotional fog and gain insight into my feelings, enhancing both my personal and professional life. Combining yoga and meditation into a daily routine sounds idealistic, but is, in fact, practical and immensely beneficial. By starting my day with a short yoga flow and ending it with a meditation session, I've crafted a balanced routine. It's this blend that sustains my emotional health and mental clarity. Integrating these practices didn't happen overnight. I built it step by step, tailoring it to fit my lifestyle. Now, it's second nature. Yoga prepares my body and mind, making me more receptive to the stillness of meditation. Likewise, meditation enhances my yoga practice by cultivating mindfulness and inner awareness. Each complements the other, creating a harmonious routine that fuels my day with energy and ends it with peace. This daily ritual is my sanctuary, a space where I reconnect with myself, recharging and reflecting. Nutritional support for emotional balance. Choosing foods that promote emotional well-being can be one of the most transformative things you can do for yourself. Imagine starting your day with a breakfast that not only fuels your body, but also lifts your spirits. Whole grains, like oatmeal, are rich in fiber and can prevent the blood sugar spikes and crashes that contribute to mood swings. Adding fruits like blueberries or a banana can provide antioxidants known to combat stress. I've noticed a significant difference in my energy levels and mood stabilization when I incorporate these into my morning routine. And it's not just about breakfast. Incorporating leafy greens like spinach and kale into my lunches and dinners has been a game changer. They are packed with folate, which aids serotonin production, a neurotransmitter that contributes to feelings of well-being. Pairing them with lean proteins like chicken or fish provides a balance of nutrients that keeps my mood steady. To make it even more delicious, I often sauté these greens with garlic and olive oil, creating a nutrient-dense, tasty meal that supports my emotional health. Understanding the link between diet and mood has helped me make more informed choices about what I eat. Research shows that the gut-brain axis plays a crucial role in our emotional state. This means that the health of my digestive system can directly influence my mood. Fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, and sauerkraut introduce healthy bacteria into the gut, which can improve digestion and enhance my overall mood. Since incorporating these into my diet, I've experienced fewer instances of anxiety and an overall sense of mental clarity. Staying hydrated is another often overlooked aspect of mood maintenance. Dehydration can lead to feelings of confusion and irritability. I aim to drink at least 8 glasses of water a day and sometimes infuse it with slices of cucumber or mint to make it more enjoyable. When my body is well hydrated, I find that I'm more focused and less susceptible to mood swings. Making those slight adjustments to your eating habits can have profound effects on your emotional balance. One practical tip that has worked wonders for me is planning and prepping my meals for the week ahead. This not only ensures that I have nutritious options readily available, but also reduces the stress associated with last-minute meal decisions. By investing a bit of time in meal preparation, I set myself up for a week filled with balanced mood and improved emotional well-being. Chapter 8: Exploring Mindfulness Practices. Introduction to Mindfulness Meditation. Understanding the basics of mindfulness meditation often begins with acknowledging the simplicity and the profundity of just being present. Normally, we find our thoughts wandering from the past to the future, rarely settling on the now. Mindfulness is a practice that lets us train the mind to pay attention on purpose, in the present moment, and without judgment. It is akin to a mental workout, one where you build the muscles required to hold your attention on the present. From my experience, starting with even just a few minutes a day made a marked difference. The initial attempts were challenging. I could barely keep my mind from drifting off within seconds. It's perfectly normal to feel frustrated or think you're not getting it right, but like any new skill, it requires patience and practice. Rather than battling with your thoughts, you gently and consistently guide your attention back to your breathing or the sounds around you. The key to starting a daily mindfulness practice is consistency, even if that means beginning with just 2 minutes a day. Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. Sit comfortably, close your eyes if that feels right, and focus on your breath entering and leaving your body. When thoughts intrude, and they will, notice them without getting caught up in them, and softly bring your attention back to your breath. Over time, gradually increase the duration of your sessions. One practical tool I found helpful was using guided meditation apps. These guided sessions provide structure and can make the practice feel less daunting. They often include prompts that help you refocus when your mind wanders. Another tip is to set a regular time for practice, whether it's in the morning to start your day or evening to wind down. Consistency helps to build the habit, making it a non-negotiable part of your routine. Remember, mindfulness is not about achieving a blank mind, but about observing your thoughts without attachment and coming back to the present. Be kind to yourself throughout this journey. The moments of stillness and clarity will grow, and you'll start to see its impact beyond the meditation cushion in everyday life. The practice has taught me patience, increased my awareness, and provided a sense of grounding amid the chaos. Mindful breathing techniques. I remember the first time I stumbled upon the power of conscious breathing. It was during a particularly stressful period of my life. Work deadlines were looming, personal responsibilities were piling up, and I felt like I was constantly on edge. A friend suggested that I try breathing exercises to regain some control over my nerves. Skeptical but willing to give anything a shot, I started exploring different techniques. I quickly realized how something as simple as controlling your breath could anchor you back to the present moment. One of the first exercises I learned was diaphragmatic breathing, also known as abdominal breathing. The concept is simple: breathe deeply into your diaphragm rather than shallowly into your chest. I would place one hand on my chest and the other on my abdomen, then take slow, deep breaths, making sure my abdomen rose more than my chest. This method immediately created a sense of calm and groundedness. Another useful technique is the 4-7-8 method, a pattern developed by Dr. Andrew Weil. I would inhale quietly through my nose for a count of 4, hold the breath for a count of 7, and exhale completely through my mouth for a count of 8. This exercise not only helped me to calm my mind, but also provided me with an easy-to-follow structure I could implement anytime, anywhere. Fast forward a few weeks, and these breathing exercises had become second nature. But where they really shone was in moments of stress. During heated meetings or when unexpected challenges cropped up, I would discreetly resort to mindful breathing. Taking a few slow, deliberate breaths allowed me to pause, regain composure, and approach situations rationally rather than react impulsively. I noticed that mindful breathing not only calmed me down, but also made me more aware of my emotional state. It's like hitting a reset button for the mind. For instance, in a particularly intense brainstorming session where ideas were clashing and tensions were high, I took a step back mentally and started focusing on my breath. This subtle shift in focus helped reduce my anxiety and allowed me to contribute more constructively to the discussion. What struck me most was how integrating these exercises into my routine improved my overall well-being. I started incorporating a few minutes of mindful breathing into my morning routine. This not only set a positive tone for the day, but also equipped me with tools to handle stressors more effectively as they arose. It's fascinating how something so simple can have such a profound impact on your state of mind and overall daily experience. If there's one piece of advice I'd offer, it's to give mindful breathing a genuine try. Start with just a few minutes each day, progressively integrating it into different moments of your life. You might be surprised at how these small acts of mindfulness can transform your world. Practicing gratitude and presence. I remember the moment I first understood the power of gratitude. It was a regular Wednesday, filled with the usual chaos of work, errands, and the seemingly never-ending to-do list. Amidst this whirlwind, I consciously paused to appreciate the laughter of a child playing in the park and the crisp autumn air that made everything feel just a bit more alive. This simple act of recognizing the beauty around me shifted my entire mood. Stress began to melt away, replaced by a profound sense of peace and contentment. When I began consistently practicing gratitude, I noticed several changes in my overall well-being. Suddenly, I was more resilient in the face of challenges. Where I once saw obstacles, I now saw opportunities for growth. My relationships also flourished. Expressing gratitude towards loved ones not only deepened our connections, but also made me more patient, understanding, and joyful. It was like discovering a secret key to happiness, a way to find light even on the darkest days. Equally transformative was my journey into the art of staying present. One of my favorite exercises is to fully engage in whatever I'm doing, be it savoring a meal, listening to a friend, or even washing dishes. It's astounding how much more vibrant and meaningful life becomes when we stop rushing through it. For instance, appreciating the aroma and flavor of coffee in the morning sets a positive tone for the day, anchoring me in the present moment instead of the anxieties of what lies ahead. I realized that by staying present, every moment can turn into an opportunity for mindfulness and gratification. It's not about ignoring the future or neglecting responsibilities, but about grounding ourselves in the now and finding joy in the small, seemingly mundane details of everyday life. This practice builds a buffer against stress and enhances our ability to cope with life's inevitable ups and downs. One tip I find incredibly useful is to start or end the day with a simple gratitude list. Even jotting down 3 things, big or small, that I am thankful for can shift my mindset profoundly. It's a gentle reminder that despite any challenges, there is always something to appreciate and cherish. So whether it's a sunny day, a kind gesture from a stranger, or simply a quiet moment of solitude, recognizing these can bring a sense of fulfillment and joy that enriches every aspect of our lives. Chapter 9. Connecting with your inner child. Healing inner child wounds. Understanding the concept of the inner child was like opening a door to a room I didn't even know existed within me. It's a part of us, within each of us, where our true emotions, creativity, and natural state reside. As adults, we often lose touch with our inner child, buried under layers of responsibilities, societal expectations, and unresolved feelings from our past. For me, it took some time to even acknowledge that this part of me needed attention and healing. It's that core of our being that hasn't been tarnished by the everyday grind, and it's incredibly important to reconnect with it. Addressing childhood wounds can be one of the most daunting yet rewarding journeys one can embark on. I realized a lot of my current behaviors and emotional responses were tied to experiences from my youth that I'd never truly dealt with. It was a revelation and a challenge to confront these old wounds. It's like opening a long-sealed box of memories, some happy, many painful. But it's necessary to address these wounds for true healing. Our inner child carries the emotional imprint of our past hurts, and without addressing these, we can never fully move forward. I found that acknowledging these pains, speaking about them, and sometimes just allowing myself to feel the emotions I had buried for so long were crucial steps in the healing process. One practical tip that I discovered was the power of self-dialogue. Talking to my inner child, visualizing them sitting there and listening to what they had to say, was surprisingly therapeutic. It might feel awkward at first, but speaking gently and kindly to my inner child helped bridge the gap that years of neglect had created. It's about giving yourself permission to feel, to grieve what was lost, and to acknowledge the resilience that has brought you to the present moment. For anyone on this path, remember to be patient and compassionate with yourself. Healing isn't linear, and sometimes it's about finding the strength to take one step at a time. Rediscovering joy and playfulness. Engaging in activities that spark joy can feel like opening a window in a stuffy room, letting in the fresh air and sunlight. When was the last time you did something that made you lose track of time because you were having so much fun? For me, it was picking up painting again. I'd forgotten how freeing it felt to splash colors on a canvas, no rules, just pure expression. Joy often hides in the simplest activities, a long walk in the park with no destination in mind, a spontaneous dance to your favorite song, or an evening spent cooking a new recipe. Allowing yourself to be playful and spontaneous is like giving your inner child permission to come out and play. There's a thrill in letting go of plans and routines, even if just for a moment. One afternoon, I decided to take a different route home and discovered a quaint little bookstore. Inside, I found a treasure trove of secondhand books and a cozy nook that quickly became my new favorite reading spot. Sometimes, the most memorable moments are those we didn't plan for. Be it with friends, family, or even alone, embracing spontaneity can lead to unexpected adventures that fill your life with stories and laughter. Let yourself explore without the pressure of purpose. Revisiting childhood hobbies or trying something entirely new can reignite the sense of wonder we've often set aside. If this idea feels daunting, start small. Spend an hour without your phone. Let your curiosity guide you. You might find that joy is far closer than you'd imagined. A neglected instrument gathering dust, a puzzle waiting to be solved, or a park ready for impromptu frisbee. When you release the need for everything to be productive or efficient, the lightness of play can bring a profoundly rejuvenating effect to your everyday life. Reparenting to nurture your inner child. Growing up, there were moments when I craved for a kind word or a reassuring smile, something to remind me that everything was going to be okay. I think we all had those moments, whether it was during a school recital, an unexpected fall, or the first time we faced rejection. As a child, the world seemed overwhelming. Every minor inconvenience felt like a major catastrophe. I longed for someone to hold my hand and guide me through the maze of my fledgling emotions. It's amazing how those early experiences shape us. They build the foundation of how we perceive the world and ourselves. When those foundational blocks are shaky, it leaves us struggling into adulthood. I often reflect on the care and support I needed back then, like a gentle reminder that my feelings were valid and my fears were understandable. Simply being seen for who I was, without judgment or impatience, was something I would have cherished deeply. This understanding is the essence of reparenting. By revisiting those moments with the empathy and support we needed, we can start to mend the gaps those years left behind. As I began the journey of reparenting, I realized the importance of building a healthy relationship with my inner child. It was strange at first, almost feeling like I was meeting someone entirely new. But as I gradually sat with those feelings and memories, I understood their role in my present behavior. Every time I felt anxious or unworthy, it was often a whisper from my younger self, crying out for understanding and acceptance. Developing this relationship meant being kind and patient with myself. I began to replace the critical internal dialogue with affirmations and compassion, creating a nurturing environment within my own mind. It's like learning to be your own best friend, offering yourself the love and care you always deserved. If there's one thing to share from this journey, it's that reparenting is not about erasing or negating the past, but rather about understanding and integrating it into a stronger, more resilient self. The practical takeaway? Start simple. Next time you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask yourself what your younger self might need in that moment. Maybe it's a reminder that you're doing your best, or perhaps it's simply giving yourself permission to rest. By addressing these needs, we pave the way for a stronger, more compassionate relationship with ourselves, ultimately fostering a solid foundation for emotional well-being. Chapter 10: Embracing Vulnerability and Authenticity. The power of vulnerability. Understanding vulnerability as a strength changed everything for me. I used to believe that showing my soft spots meant inviting judgment or losing respect. But vulnerability is not about oversharing or appearing weak. It's about authenticity and connecting on a deeper level. When I started allowing myself to open up, I discovered that people could relate more to my struggles than my successes. It connected me with friends, family, and even strangers in ways I hadn't imagined. Being vulnerable bridged gaps and built stronger, more meaningful relationships. It was like sending out a signal that said, "It's okay to be human around me." Allowing myself to be seen as I am was the hardest part. It felt like standing naked in front of a crowd. I was afraid of being judged, of people seeing my flaws and deciding they didn't like what they saw. But then I realized that everyone has their own insecurities and fears. When I shared mine, it made others feel safe to share theirs too. The first time I talked about something deeply personal, I expected silence and discomfort. Instead, I received understanding, empathy, and unexpected solidarity. I learned that showing my true self was not only liberating but also incredibly empowering. Living authentically in a masked world. I've often found myself wondering why it's so tough to be genuine all the time. It's like there's this constant pressure to fit into what everyone else expects us to be. I remember times at work or social gatherings where I'd hide parts of who I really am, just to avoid conflict or awkwardness. Have you ever caught yourself laughing at a joke that you didn't find funny or agreeing with an opinion just because it was easier than speaking your own truth? These instances might feel insignificant at the moment, but they add up, creating a version of ourselves that's far from genuine. The first step in living authentically is recognizing these moments when we aren't true to ourselves. Think about the last conversation where you felt like you couldn't express your real thoughts. What was holding you back? It could be fear of judgment, the desire to be liked, or perhaps not wanting to stand out. Identifying these triggers is crucial. I started keeping a mental journal of these instances. Whenever I felt like I was playing a role, I'd make a note of who I was with, what was said, and how I felt. This simple practice revealed patterns and made it clear who and what situations I felt most compelled to hide my true self from. Practicing authenticity isn't about a dramatic overhaul of your life, but making small, consistent choices to be more truthful. Start with daily interactions. The next time you're asked for your opinion, pause for a moment and consider how you genuinely feel. It might sound simple, but saying, "Actually, I have a different take on that," can be incredibly liberating. It's about choosing to be transparent in your smaller, everyday conversations so that it becomes a natural part of how you interact in more significant situations. Trust me, it gets easier with time, and each genuine interaction builds confidence. Opening up with trust and courage. In any relationship, trust forms the bedrock upon which everything else is built. It can be challenging to share openly if you don't feel secure or if past experiences have left you wary. I remember when I felt a sense of vulnerability in opening up to my partner. It wasn't easy, but I found that by being consistent and keeping my promises, we slowly crafted a space where honesty felt natural. We started with small steps, sharing simple thoughts, fears, and dreams. Gradually, this created a ripple effect, inspiring deeper conversations. It's amazing how the feeling of being genuinely heard and valued can strengthen trust. It wasn't just about sharing, but also about listening actively, showing empathy, and offering reassurance. Every time I showed that I was there to support and not judge, trust between us grew stronger, paving the way for even more open sharing. Expressing your true feelings takes immense courage. It's one thing to trust someone, it's another to muster the courage to be emotionally naked in front of them. I recall the first time I chose to be completely honest about a significant issue that had been troubling me. The fear of rejection or misunderstanding gnawed at me, but I knew that keeping it bottled up would only hurt more. Taking a deep breath, I chose to be vulnerable, to finally give voice to my deepest feelings. To my surprise, that moment of honesty not only brought relief, but also deepened our connection. By showing my partner my true self, imperfections, doubts, and all, I allowed the relationship to move to a more genuine, intimate level. What I learned is that courage isn't about the absence of fear, but rather the decision that something else is more important than fear. And in relationships, that something is often love and mutual respect. Embracing this idea helped me be more forthright, and though scary at times, it always led to a stronger bond. Chapter 11: Transforming Negative Thought Patterns. Recognizing and challenging negative self-talk. Identifying patterns of negative self-talk can often be a daunting task. As humans, we're sometimes not even aware we're engaging in these patterns. It feels as if my mind has its own script, replaying familiar negative lines that become an unquestioned part of my daily thoughts. These thoughts can manifest as self-criticism, unwarranted blame, or baseless fears. They tell me I'm not good enough, not smart enough, or that I'm destined to fail. I start to notice the recurring themes and phrases that pop up, especially during moments of stress or when facing challenges. For me, a realization dawns when I catch myself saying, "Why do I always mess up?" Or "I'll never get this right." These phrases often follow a pattern, appearing under circumstances where my confidence is already shaky. Developing strategies to challenge and change these patterns has been a game changer. It's not just about recognizing the negative talk, but also taking active steps to counteract it. One method I find particularly effective is cognitive restructuring, which involves replacing negative thoughts with more rational, positive ones. Whenever I catch myself in a negative loop, I force myself to pause and question the legitimacy of these thoughts. Instead of, "I always mess up," I might replace it with, "This is just one mistake. I can learn from it and do better next time." It's a form of mental reprogramming that requires persistence, but yields significant changes over time. It's like learning a new language, the language of self-compassion and encouragement. Another helpful strategy is grounding myself in the present moment, especially when my thoughts spiral into what-if scenarios. I'll literally stop and observe my surroundings, take deep breaths, and remind myself that most fears are just that, fears, not facts. By nurturing this practice, I build a toolkit of responses to negative self-talk. Over time, I notice it's easier to spot these detrimental patterns early and neutralize them before they take root. Equipping ourselves with these strategies doesn't just change our internal dialogue, but slowly transforms how we view ourselves and our potential. Cognitive restructuring for positive thinking. Have you ever found yourself caught in a whirlwind of negative thoughts, feeling like there's no escape? You're not alone. Many of us grapple with this. Cognitive restructuring is a powerful tool to change those negative thought patterns. It revolves around identifying and challenging irrational or negative thoughts and replacing them with more positive and realistic ones. Think of it as reprogramming your brain to look at situations differently. It doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. Instead, it's about gaining a balanced perspective that helps you handle life's ups and downs more effectively. When I started applying cognitive restructuring in my life, it felt peculiar at first. Imagine this. You're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. Your first instinct might be to think, "This is a disaster. I'm going to mess everything up." Recognizing this negative automatic thought is the first step. Next, challenging it involves asking yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it entirely true? In most cases, it isn't. Finally, we shift to a more balanced thought. Traffic is out of my control, but I can handle being a bit late. This process transforms a stress-filled experience into something manageable. One of the most effective techniques I've found is keeping a thought diary. Whenever you catch yourself with a negative thought, write it down. Note the situation, your feelings, and how intense they are. Then, jot down the evidence for and against this thought. Often, you'll find that the evidence against your negative thought is far more convincing. Over time, this practice makes it easier to recognize those automatic thoughts and replace them with positive ones. You'll notice a substantial shift in your mindset, making daily challenges less daunting and more of an opportunity to practice and grow. Replacing limiting beliefs with empowering mindset. HTML. I remember struggling with deeply ingrained beliefs that seemed to tether me to mediocrity. These beliefs weren't overtly negative, but they were insidious. I used to think that I'm just not cut out for leadership or success is only for the lucky. It took a lot of self-reflection to realize these were just narratives I'd collected over time, often based on past experiences and the words of others. But identifying these beliefs is the crucial first step. It's like turning on the light in a dark room. Suddenly, the shadows, those limiting thoughts, become visible, and you can begin to dismantle them. Adopting new beliefs starts with creating a contrast. I asked myself, what stories am I telling that keep me small? The answers were revealing. If I believed I couldn't lead, I needed to find evidence of moments where I had shown leadership, no matter how small. I replaced the initial belief with I have the potential to be a great leader, and every small step counts. This shift wasn't about blind optimism, but about recognizing and nurturing the spark within. I noticed that as I fed these new beliefs, they gradually gained strength, not because they were profound, but because I consistently sought evidence to support them. One practical tip that worked wonders for me was journaling my daily achievements, no matter how minor. This practice wasn't merely for the sake of record-keeping, but to reinforce my evolving beliefs. I wrote about instances where I showed resilience, acted decisively, or solved problems creatively. Each entry served as a testament to my growing capabilities, turning my journal into a reservoir of positive reinforcement. Over time, these entries became the foundation from which a truly empowering mindset emerged, replacing the old limiting beliefs with a new narrative of possibility and growth. Chapter 12. Balancing masculine and feminine energies. Embracing both aspects within yourself. Throughout my life, I've come to recognize the significant value of both masculine and feminine energies. Initially, I focused solely on what society deemed as masculine traits: assertiveness, decisiveness, and logical thinking. These traits have their rightful place and can be incredibly useful. They gave me the drive to pursue my goals relentlessly and the strength to face challenges head-on. However, it wasn't until I acknowledged and embraced the equally powerful feminine qualities within me that I started experiencing a fuller, more balanced life. Compassion, empathy, and intuition often get sidelined, but are essential for a more holistic understanding of ourselves and our interactions with others. Integrating these energies is like tuning an instrument. At first, it felt unnatural to switch from a hyper-focused, goal-oriented mindset to a more open, intuitive one. It required conscious effort to balance my driven nature with moments of reflection and emotional connection. I noticed how my relationships started to flourish when I did this. Instead of bulldozing through conversations, I began to listen actively and empathetically. By bringing my full self into my interactions, I found that people responded more openly and warmly. Professional settings benefited too. Creative problem-solving and team dynamics improved when I included the nurturing aspects of my personality. So, as I share my journey, I encourage you to take a moment to honestly reflect on which energies dominate your life. Is there room for more empathy in your decisions? Could your endeavors benefit from a bit more drive and clear-sightedness? Experiment with this balance. It's not about dampening one set of traits to amplify another, but about harmonizing these aspects to enhance your overall well-being. Start small. Maybe it's about truly listening in a conversation or taking a decisive step where you've been hesitant. Over time, you'll notice that embracing both aspects doesn't just round out your personality, it enriches your life in ways you might never have imagined. Harmonizing yin and yang energies. Understanding the principles of yin and yang has been an eye-opening journey for me. At its core, it's about balance, the dynamic interplay between two complementary forces. Yin is the essence of passivity, coolness, and darkness, while yang embodies activity, warmth, and light. Initially, I struggled to see how these abstract concepts could apply to my everyday life. But once I began to observe not just the big events, but the subtle rhythms, the shift from day to night, the ebb and flow of energy within myself, I began to see how interwoven these principles are with our existence. A harmonious life, I've found, requires acknowledging these dualities and working with them rather than against them. Practicing techniques to harmonize these energies became my next step. I started with simple practices. For instance, when feeling overly yang-driven, stressed, overworked, and aggressive, I found solace in inactivities like meditative breathing or gentle yoga. On the flip side, to invigorate sluggish, yin-heavy moments, I engaged in brisk exercises or spent time in the sun. It wasn't just about physical activities, even shifting my mindset played a role. Learning to embrace the quiet, reflective yin periods without guilt allowed for restorative healing, while consciously activating my inner yang could summon courage and assertiveness when needed. Balancing these energies is ongoing, requiring mindfulness and a keen sense of self-awareness. Cultivating balance in relationships. We've all been in relationships where something just feels off, where you seem to be doing all the work to maintain the connection, or where the other person's needs seem to overshadow your own. Recognizing these energetic imbalances is the first step towards reclaiming harmony. You might notice that you're feeling fatigued, emotionally drained, or even resentful of your partner. These are telltale signs that the give-and-take dynamic is skewed. It's crucial to delve into why this imbalance exists. Sometimes it stems from one partner being more dominant, more emotionally needy, or simply having different expectations of what the relationship should be. Sorting out these discrepancies requires honest self-reflection and open communication. Take the time to assess how much energy you're investing versus how much you're receiving. Are your needs being met, or are you constantly putting them aside for the sake of keeping peace? Identifying these patterns can open the gateway to transforming an unbalanced relationship into a supportive one. Creating a mutually supportive dynamic begins with setting clear boundaries and expressing your needs explicitly. Discuss with your partner what balance looks like for you both, and be prepared to listen actively to their perspective as well. It's a two-way street. Practicing empathy can also bridge gaps. Sometimes understanding where your partner is coming from can illuminate why they might be contributing less. Maybe they're going through a tough time, or they might not even realize there's an imbalance. Prioritize actions like checking in regularly with each other and making compromises that benefit both parties. It's about finding a rhythm that works for both individuals involved. This process isn't about keeping score. Rather, it's about ensuring that both partners feel valued and supported. Regularly assess your relationship's balance and make adjustments as needed. Perfection isn't the goal, mutual growth and understanding are. One practical tip is to institute a weekly or monthly ritual where both of you discuss the state of your relationship. Use this time to voice any concerns, express gratitude for what's going well, and plan how you can support each other better moving forward. This proactive approach can help in maintaining the relationship's equilibrium over the long haul. Chapter 13: Emotional Release and Expression. Cathartic Release Techniques. When it comes to finding methods for emotional catharsis, I've discovered that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Each of us carries our unique emotional baggage, and thus, our paths to release those emotions can be quite varied. For some, physical activity like running or hitting the gym can serve as an effective release valve. Personally, I find that engaging in a vigorous workout acts as a conduit to pour out my pent-up frustration and stress. Everyday worries seem to dissipate as I push through each rep, and there's something deeply satisfying about the physical exertion that mirrors an emotional purge. Others might find solace in more creative outlets. Writing, for instance, can be immensely therapeutic. I've often taken to journaling in moments of emotional turbulence, allowing my thoughts and feelings to spill onto the pages without reservation. It's a private sanctuary where my vulnerabilities are laid bare, granting me a sense of release and clarity. I've also dabbled in painting during particularly intense phases of my life. The process of creating something tangible from my feelings, whether it's strokes of anger or shades of sorrow, provides an unexpected yet profound relief. When it comes to practicing techniques to release pent-up emotions, mindfulness and meditation have emerged as indispensable tools in my arsenal. Sitting quietly, focusing on my breath, and letting my mind wander through its labyrinths have helped me confront and process deeper emotions. Initially, it felt alien and somewhat uncomfortable, but with time, these moments became a refuge, a place where I could dialectically interact with my feelings without the immediate need to resolve or categorize them. Sharing experiences with trusted friends or a therapist also plays a pivotal role. I've learned that verbalizing emotions can disarm their intensity. Conversations about insecurities or fears don't just lighten the emotional load, they also foster connections, making you realize that you are not alone in your struggles. Even in my closest circle, the act of speaking out has often dismantled emotional walls I didn't realize were weighing me down. If you're like me and constantly finding new ways to manage emotional energy, try incorporating some music into your routine. Some days, I lose myself in playing my guitar, each chord helping to draw out what's inside. Other times, simply listening to a playlist that resonates with my mood lifts a weight off my chest, enabling me to navigate my emotions more fluidly. Finding what best allows you to release your pent-up emotions isn't about copying a formula, but rather discovering what resonates the deepest with your personal experiences. Keeping a toolkit of varied approaches ensures that no matter where you find yourself emotionally, there's a path to catharsis readily available. Creative and artistic expression for emotional outlet. When I first started using art as a medium to express my emotions, I didn't realize just how powerful it could be. It was more than just splashing colors on a canvas or sketching random patterns. Each stroke began to mirror my thoughts, each color a reflection of my feelings. There was a moment when I stood back and looked at a piece I'd been working on for weeks. The swirls of blue mixed with bursts of red told a story of my inner turmoil and eventual peace. It struck me then. Art was more than an activity, it was a dialogue between my inner self and the world. I remember feeling an immense sense of relief, like a weight had lifted off my shoulders. This self-expression was cathartic, allowing me to communicate emotions that words could never capture. Engaging in creative activities is another avenue that has transformed how I process my feelings. Whether it's journaling in the quiet hours of the night, writing lyrics to a song, or even just doodling while listening to my favorite music, each creative endeavor serves as an outlet. I often find myself lost in the process, letting my mind wander freely. There's an inherent beauty in losing oneself in creation, strumming a guitar string, weaving through words in a poem, or shaping clay into something that feels like it has a soul. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, I picked up some clay and just started molding. By the time I was done, I had created a small sculpture that captured all the day's anxiety. It was as if I had transferred my unease from my mind into the clay. This ability to translate emotions into tangible forms can be incredibly liberating and healing. If you're hesitant or unsure where to start, Just pick up any form of art or creative activity that speaks to you. You don't need to be Picasso or Shakespeare. It's not about creating a masterpiece. It's about expressing yourself honestly and finding peace in the process. You might be surprised at what you discover within yourself. The key is to let your emotions flow naturally onto your medium of choice. Sometimes, just taking that first step, like drawing a single line, writing a single word, or playing a single note, can unlock a flood of emotions that have been waiting to be expressed. Expressive writing for emotional catharsis. Writing has always been a sanctuary for me, a place where I can let go of the burdens that weigh on my heart. When emotions become too overwhelming, I turn to pen and paper, or sometimes my laptop, to find release. There's something almost magical about converting your thoughts and feelings into words. It's an unfiltered, honest, and sometimes raw process that can bring tremendous emotional relief. I found that the act of writing itself became a conversation with my inner self, helping me to see my emotions from a different perspective and making them more manageable. One of the most effective ways I've discovered to harness the power of writing for emotional release is by keeping a journal. It wasn't always easy to maintain the habit, but once I committed to jotting down my feelings regularly, it became a crucial tool in my emotional toolkit. My journal became a private space where I could explore my feelings without judgment. Some days, I wrote about joyful moments and gratitude, but on tougher days, it was a safe haven for my anxieties, frustrations, and fears. The more I wrote, the more patterns emerged, a clearer understanding of my emotional landscape. Over time, my journal entries started to reveal recurring themes and underlying issues. This self-exploration allowed me to better understand the triggers for my emotions and the thoughts that drove them. By putting pen to paper, I was able to create a narrative around my experiences, which made them feel less chaotic. Writing about my emotions also gave me the opportunity to process past experiences that I hadn't fully dealt with. It became a means of connecting the dots in my emotional history, bringing insights that were both healing and empowering. Chapter 14. Living in alignment with your truth. Identifying your core values. I remember the moment I realized what truly mattered to me. It wasn't during a big, life-changing event. It was a quiet Monday morning, sitting with a cup of coffee, going through the motions of my daily routine. I felt a gnawing sensation, a sense that something was missing. That was when I started to question what I was doing with my life. What did I genuinely care about? What made me feel fulfilled? These simple but profound questions led me on a journey to discover my core values. Aligning your life with your core beliefs and values can be transformative. First, I had to dig deep and explore what values resonated with me. Was it honesty, integrity, freedom, or compassion? Identifying these values isn't always straightforward. Sometimes it requires introspection, reflective journaling, or even candid conversations with those who know you best. For me, it helped to think about what made me feel proud, what angered me, and what moved me to tears. These emotional responses often pointed to deeper values I held. Once I had a clearer sense of my core values, aligning my life with them became the next challenge. This wasn't about instant or drastic changes. It was about small, consistent adjustments. I started by evaluating my career, relationships, and daily habits. Did my job align with my value of creativity? Did my friendships foster my value of honesty? These inquiries guided me to make choices that felt more authentic and true to who I am. For instance, I began investing time in creative projects and nurturing relationships that encouraged openness and trust. One practical tip that significantly helped in this process was creating a values journal. I dedicated a few minutes each day to reflect on actions and decisions that aligned or misaligned with my core values. This ongoing practice made it easier to stay aware and make conscious choices that resonated with what truly mattered to me. Aligning your actions with your authentic self. Ensuring that your actions reflect your true self often feels like navigating a complex labyrinth. I've found that the first step is understanding who you truly are. This might sound daunting, but it's fundamentally about connecting with your core values, principles, and beliefs. In my own experience, I discovered that taking the time to reflect on what genuinely matters to me, what drives me, and what makes me feel fulfilled was transformative. This required honest introspection and sometimes uncomfortable truths. I had to ask myself whether my daily actions, my routine decisions, and even the people I surrounded myself with were in harmony with these core aspects of my identity. Living authentically through mindful decision-making isn't something that happens overnight. It's a continuous practice of conscious decision-making. For instance, I started by examining my choices at both significant and mundane levels. When faced with decisions, I would pause and question whether the options available resonated with my true self. This mindfulness exercise became a habit. I noticed the difference it made in how aligned I felt with my own values. Instead of going along with societal pressures or external expectations, I made choices aligned with my personal purpose. It's about being present in the moment and making decisions that honor your integrity and authenticity. One practice that proved invaluable was creating personal non-negotiables. These are principles or values that I refuse to compromise on, no matter the situation. Identifying these non-negotiables took self-awareness and honesty. Once defined, these became the pillars by which I lead my life, helping me stay true to myself amidst external noise. For example, if one of my values is honesty, then lying, even in minor instances, would violate this principle and leave me feeling dissonant from my true self. Being consistent with these non-negotiables brought clarity and peace. By grounding myself in these practices, I found a deeper sense of fulfillment and genuine happiness. Aligning actions with authenticity isn't just about major life decisions, but also the everyday choices that accumulate and define who we are. I encourage actively identifying and honoring your core values and principles. Living authentically through mindful decision-making can significantly enhance your fulfillment and sense of self. Living a purposeful and meaningful life. It's easy to get caught up in the daily grind, checking off tasks and going through the motions without truly considering if what we are doing has any real purpose. I remember feeling this constant sense of disconnection, as if I was just drifting through my days. Then, I started consciously looking for ways my actions could hold more significance. Whether it was at work, at home, or during my downtime, I made a point to align my activities with my core values and passions. This not only changed how I viewed my daily routine, but also added a layer of fulfillment in everything I did. There was a time when I felt that elusive sense of fulfillment was just for those who were doing something grand, like traveling the world or launching groundbreaking initiatives. But then it hit me. Living a fulfilling life doesn't mean it has to be picture-perfect or constantly extraordinary. Small moments, like spending quality time with loved ones, working on a hobby, or even just being present during a meal, unexpectedly started to bring a deep sense of joy. Understanding that fulfillment comes from consistency in the little things I loved doing redefined my outlook on life. One particularly useful approach was to periodically reflect on what truly brought me meaning and align my goals around those anchors. For instance, I assessed how my job could contribute more to my personal growth or how I could be of service in my community. Setting aside time to volunteer or simply help a neighbor shifted my focus from self-centered accomplishments to compassionate engagement. The realization that even seemingly small actions could ripple out and affect others positively gave me a profound sense of purpose and belonging. Chapter 15. Mastering Self-Regulation of Emotions. Self-soothing and calming techniques. Whenever I find myself in distress, one of the first things I do is take a deep breath. It might sound simple, almost too simplistic, but the act of conscious breathing is incredibly grounding. The slow inhale through the nose, holding for a moment, and then a deliberate, slow exhale through the mouth can help me regain a sense of control. I often close my eyes during this process to block out any visual overstimulation. The world behind my eyelids is calmer, simpler, and helps me to start breaking down whatever stressful situation I'm dealing with. Another technique I rely on is progressive muscle relaxation. It's about tensing and then slowly releasing different muscle groups from my toes up to my head. This method helps me physically feel where I hold tension. Once I realize where my muscles are tight, letting go becomes a mindful exercise, and I always end up feeling more relaxed and centered. Imagining the tension melting away with each exhale also acts as a mental reset. Music is another powerful tool in my soothing toolkit. Certain melodies, lyrics, or even rhythms can dramatically alter my mood. Whenever I'm in need of comfort, I have a playlist of songs that I know will gently guide me back to a more peaceful state. These songs carry memories, emotions, and power to direct my mind away from distress. Sometimes singing along or even just letting the music wash over me helps me find solace. In my quest for calm, I've also found that sensory engagement works wonders. Holding a stress ball, feeling the texture of a smooth stone, or even running my fingers through a piece of fabric provides a tactile distraction. The physicality of these items helps ground my mind in the present moment. Engaging my sense of smell by using essential oils or a favorite soothing scent also enhances this grounding effect. I usually opt for scents like lavender or eucalyptus. They have an immediate calming influence, transporting me to a place of peace. Creating a personal toolkit of calming techniques has been both an exploration and a necessity for me. It's like having a first aid kit for the mind. Every item in this kit is there because it's been tried, tested, and proven to help. Beyond the simple and the tactile, mindfulness meditation has become a cornerstone. By setting aside a few minutes each day to focus on my breath and observe my thoughts without judgment, I've learned to create an inner sanctuary. This consistent practice not only helps during immediate distress, but builds long-term emotional resilience. Journaling has also become an essential part of my toolkit. When I'm overwhelmed, putting pen to paper allows me to externalize my worries. The act of writing helps me untangle the knot of thoughts in my mind and often leads to insights about what I am truly feeling and why. The pages become a non-judgmental space where I can pour out everything inside me. Alongside journaling, I sometimes draw or doodle, letting the shapes and lines express what words cannot. In times when I need a more immediate form of relief, physically moving my body helps too. Whether it's a brisk walk, some light stretching, or even a few minutes of yoga, physical activity has a significant impact on my emotional state. Movement gets the blood flowing and the endorphins pumping, which naturally counteracts the stress-induced chemicals raging through me. The environment in which I do this can also influence its effectiveness, so I often seek out natural settings like a park or a quiet street lined with trees. One of the most powerful lessons I've learned is the importance of being proactive rather than reactive. By integrating these calming techniques into my daily life, rather than just in moments of crisis, I build a buffer against future distress. Regular self-care routines, like mindful breathing, sensory engagement, and physical movement, make the days smoother and more manageable. They're daily habits that ensure when the storm hits, I'm not just prepared but fortified with an arsenal of self-soothing tools. Setting boundaries for emotional well-being. Recognizing the importance of personal boundaries has profoundly shifted the way I navigate my emotional landscape. It wasn't until I felt utterly drained and emotionally spent that I realized something had to change. Personal boundaries are not just about keeping others at bay, they're essential for self-preservation and for nurturing relationships in a healthy way. Whether it was saying yes to work commitments out of a sense of duty or allowing friends to unload their emotional baggage on me constantly, I discovered that failing to set boundaries left me feeling depleted and resentful. Understanding that setting boundaries is a sign of self-respect rather than selfishness was a crucial turning point. It helps to remember that boundaries are about creating space for our well-being and are vital for maintaining one's mental health. In implementing boundaries to protect my emotional health, I found it necessary to establish clear communication. Expressing my limits was awkward at first, especially because I feared confrontation or disappointing others. However, I realized that if I didn't clearly communicate my needs, no one would understand them. For example, when a friend called during my scarce downtime, I started to say, "I'm not available right now. Can we talk later?" Initially, there were misunderstandings, but over time, people began to respect my boundaries more. This didn't just protect my time, it also empowered others to respect their own limits. By valuing myself enough to assert my rights, I noticed that my relationships improved, becoming more balanced and mature. It felt liberating to have control over my emotional energy and to prioritize my mental health. One practical tip that helped reinforce my boundaries was learning to say no without guilt. It is a small word but carries immense power. Saying no does not equate to being unhelpful or unkind. Rather, it signifies that I respect my limits and choose to engage in activities and relationships that align with my values and well-being. Initially, I struggled with feelings of guilt and fear of rejection. But by practicing and staying firm, I realized that an honest no is far better for my emotional health than an insincere yes. I often framed my response with empathy, offering a respectful no by explaining, "I really wish I could help, but my current commitments won't allow it." This approach not only preserved my peace, but also fostered more genuine interactions with others who began to appreciate my honesty and clarity. Cultivating emotional stability. This journey to emotional balance began with me realizing that my inner chaos was affecting every aspect of my life. It felt like I was always teetering on the edge of either intense excitement or deep sadness. The first step to finding balance came from practicing habits that promote emotional stability. I started small, developing a daily routine that involved a mix of physical activity, hobbies, and social interaction. Early on, I found that physical exercise was an incredible way to regulate my emotions. Going for a run in the morning or practicing yoga helped release built-up tension and kept me grounded throughout the day. Each time I felt overwhelmed, I turned to physical activity as my outlet. This routine gradually made a difference, aiding me in keeping my emotions from swinging too wildly. Another significant aspect was engaging in hobbies that brought me joy. For some, it might be painting, playing an instrument, or gardening. For me, it was reading and occasionally writing poetry. These activities gave me a creative outlet, allowing me to express and process my emotions in a healthy way. Building and maintaining a social network also played a vital role. Regularly spending time with friends and family provided a strong support system. They offered perspectives and comfort that I couldn't find on my own. I learned to reach out when I needed help, understanding that seeking support was a sign of strength, not weakness. Nurturing a consistent emotional stability through mindful practices was equally essential. It required integrating mindfulness into my everyday life. I began with simple practices like deep breathing exercises and gradually moved to more structured mindfulness meditation. These practices taught me to be present, helping me pause before reacting emotionally. Mindfulness also extended to becoming aware of my thoughts. I started to notice recurring negative thought patterns and worked on challenging them. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm terrible at this," I would remind myself, "I am still learning and it's okay to make mistakes." This shift in self-talk fostered a sense of internal calm and resilience. Lastly, practicing gratitude became a cornerstone of my emotional stability. Each evening, I wrote down 3 things I was grateful for that day, however small. Over time, this practice shifted my focus from what's lacking to what's abundant in my life, cultivating a more positive outlook. These practices together created a tapestry of emotional stability, one thread at a time. The key takeaway is persistence and patience. Emotional balance is not a destination but a continuous process of understanding and nurturing oneself. As we reach the conclusion of Awakening the Inner Self, Mastering Emotional Triggers and Energy Centers, I hope you've found valuable insights and practical tools to enhance your emotional and spiritual journey. Throughout this audiobook, we've explored the profound connections between your emotions, energy centers, and overall well-being. You've learned to recognize and manage your personal triggers, harness the power of your chakras, and heal from past traumas with self-compassion. By cultivating emotional intelligence and nurturing self-love, you've built a strong foundation for personal growth and meaningful relationships. Your journey has also included developing emotional resilience, understanding the mind-body connection, and integrating mindfulness practices into your daily routine. By connecting with your inner child and embracing vulnerability and authenticity, you've unlocked new layers of self-awareness and inner strength. Transforming negative thought patterns, balancing masculine and feminine energies, and mastering self-regulation techniques have empowered you to live in alignment with your true self. You've learned to express your emotions creatively and set healthy boundaries for emotional stability. As you continue on your path, remember that this journey is ongoing. The tools and practices you've gained here are meant to be revisited and refined as you grow. Embrace each step with an open heart and a curious mind, knowing that you have the power to create a life filled with purpose, joy, and emotional harmony. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your transformative journey. May you continue to awaken your inner self, master your emotional triggers, and align your energy centers, living a life that is authentically and beautifully yours.